Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. This is the June 29th, 2026 meeting of the Framingham School Building Committee. We have a quorum of 7 people right now present. First item on the agenda would be public comment. And I do not believe we have any public. Let me just see. If anybody in the public is looking to make a comment, raise your hand. I see a couple of people there who should be panelists. Okay, very good. So I see no public comment. Next would be review of meeting minutes. So we have meeting minutes for June 1st, our June 1st meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Mateo, seconded by David. Is that who seconded it?
Mateo seconded.
Oh, okay, I thought Mateo moved it. It's hard to tell here on hear voices, but okay. So sounds good. Moves in second, so I'll just start as I see him on the screen. Myself, yes. Adam,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
David. I'm gonna take that as a yes.
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 Rachel,
Yes.
Sharia,
Yes.
and Mateo.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So hopefully this, I have to look through the whole screen to find out who's on the committee and who's not. So I get a little confused. So if I call you and you're not on the committee, just remind me. All right. So to get back to my agenda, I apologize. Next on the agenda is the invoice package approval. Does anybody have any questions? If there are no questions, I'll take a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Okay, and seconded.
Second.
Okay, so it's moved by Adam, seconded by Aaron. All those in favor, Mateo,
Yes.
Yes.
Sharia,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Jess,
Yep.
Aaron,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Adam,
Yes.
myself. Yes, I don't think I missed anybody. So next is the Cropper zoning update. Whose is that?
That'll be mine.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, do we have the slides for that?
Yep. Hold on one second.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
gonna go over a couple things. Here you go.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hi, I'm Sean Dowling. I'm here on behalf of Matt Cropper and Cropper GIS. So just a quick update on the work that we've done here. We were looking at building models for site selection for the construction project here. And this first slide here, this is based on the database we received from the district on April 8th of this year. It's just a straight query of that database. So it shows you enrollment numbers by grade using the capacity figures that were developed by Tappy, Chris and Michaela. And it just shows the utilization percentage based on the current enrollment by grade and a little trend line there, just a slope calculation K through 5. And down below, there's a demographic table. The state of Massachusetts has a large number of race and ethnic codes. I think it's like 63. So we condensed that quite a bit just to have a quicker, easier to look at a table here. Breakdown of race, ethnicity, and ELL status. So this is the starting point of the database that we were working with by percentages. There is a little quick color code. Green indicates that a percentage is within 10% of the district average. You can see the average at the line down at the bottom there. Yellow is between 10 and 15%, and red is outside of 15%. So it just kind of makes it easier to identify areas that are far outside of the district average. So if you want to go to the next slide, we developed 3 models And we're presenting the tables. These are very draft. As you can see, the draft watermark. This was a preliminary look at this. But we developed 3 options and presenting these tables here tonight. In the first option, we're looking at the expansion and renovation of Hemingway. You can see that capacity number goes up to 985. It's 521 currently. So this would be the addition to that building. As you can see, the utilization numbers balance out nicely. That's the case in all 3 of our models here. We were able to make that work in each of the models. Building the big structure or adding on to Hemingway to expand the size of that structure up north, creates challenges because it is difficult to populate that building with just students that are up north. And I should mention quickly the assumptions we made on these numbers. We're keeping for these models preschool and pre-K kids constant. You can see that Juniper Hill remains unchanged, as well as the pre-K students at Harmony Grove and McCarthy. And we kept all students that were coded for dual language remain at their program at their school. Since Barbary is all dual language, you see that it remains unchanged as well. And then K through 5 students that were not coded for dual language were assumed to be assigned to a school based on these models. So that's how we generated these numbers. In this model, you do see that there are some improvements in demographics at Hemingway, actually, and at King. Both of these schools would need to draw from the south a little bit because it is difficult to populate those buildings in the north if you have a large facility up there. So we can go to the next slide then. So what we called option number 2 would assume that Hemingway would be repurposed. It wouldn't be used as a K through 5 facility. It would be used for other purposes, and there would be another facility built at the Bethany Road site down in the south. So you see that school's added down at the bottom of that table, and it has the 985 capacity number now. So you see the same total capacity of 5150 in all of these models, just moving around where that capacity is located. Most of the population growth and density is in the southern part of the district, so it's much easier to populate a larger facility down there. In this model, many of the students that would be living in the area that is now surrounding Hemingway would go to King. And it does create kind of a more contiguous model. You see that the utilization numbers, again, are well balanced up at that top table there. Down below the Bethany Road School, you see that at the bottom line there in that demographic table, it's relatively close to the district average, really across the board in all of those categories. You see King has some challenges when it comes to demographic balance in Hispanic, non-Hispanic ethnicity and ELL, as it would mostly be drawing from the northern part of the district, unlike in Model 1, where students from the southern part of the district would be going to King as well. And then we can look at the last slide there. And then in option 3, we kind of split the difference. In this option, Hemingway stays a K through 5 facility. Its capacity remains unchanged. You see it's at 521 in that top table. And then there is a smaller Bethany Road facility brought online with a capacity of 464 in this model, which is closer to the size of the buildings that are already existing within the district. And once again, as I said before, utilization is close to the district average in all of these school buildings. And in this one, demographics are a little bit better balanced than in option 2. Hemingway is in the red, you see in this table, but it actually does improve in this model over what it currently is based on the current student database. It gets a bit closer to the district average there. King becomes very well balanced, and the assumed Bethany Road facility is nearly online with the district average in most of these categories. So those were the three options that we produced, just looking at three different ways of viewing site selection, either expansion at Hammond Way, a brand new large facility at Bethany Road, or keeping Hammond Way online and opening a smaller building more in alignment with what the district already has at the Bethany Road facility.
Okay, so Brian, Chris, do either one of you guys want to comment at all on this?
No, I think one of the things that we're still sort of putting into this charts is the district-wide effect on pre-K. And so that's not necessarily represented completely here, but we're still working on those facts and figures. And the closer we get and more we get into these options, the more we'll be able to fill out some pre-K numbers here and start to talk about where pre-K can go once more seats are made in and through the district. But that's the one sort of spot here. But we tried to model three options that represent basically how the three different sites, or if you will, and the options, each of the options you've seen so far would fall into one of these three categories that he just talked about. So
Okay. Anybody have any questions about the zoning update?
Would you mind going back to the first slide again, Sean? Thank you. I just wanted to take a quick look.
Yeah, this first slide is the current enrollment based on the April database that we had.
Aaron, do you have any specific questions?
No, I was just like doing some comparisons and trying to see how it kind of all shakes out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions, comments, want to see anything again? Okay, seeing nothing, I will move on to the Ed Plan space summary update. Who's going to handle that, Chris?
yeah, I think that's me. So the Ed Plan we talked about before was the document that Anne and her team on the district side had produced. And so that, along with the Ed Visioning sessions that we had and the notes that came from that, have started to play into how we make the space summary. So the space summary is a document that's required by the MSBA. And essentially there's, let me try to talk you through how this works. So the right-hand side, there's sort of a group of columns there that are called the MSBA guidelines. And they say, do not modify in big capital letters. And that's because we don't modify that. That's just straight from essentially their policy, and the program that they have through legislation is sort of put into spreadsheet form here. And Michaela, if you can go to the bottom of this, the first step that we do on any project is we take the enrollment that the state certified with the district and city. That's the 985 students there. And then that gets broken down into grades K through 5. And so you can see there that the kindergarten enrollment's roughly 164, and then 1 and 2 is 328, and then 3 through 6, you don't have a 6th grade, but it's 3 through 5 would be 493. And so that input there, the 985 students, ends up populating everything up above it. And so you can go back to the top, and that tells us essentially, like if you look at the first couple rows there, it says, kindergarten classrooms with toilets, and then general classrooms. The MSBA says, oh, we think this building for this many students is going to be about 9 kindergarten classrooms and about 36 general classrooms. And those are based on a couple things. And there's notes to the right that talk about their policy, which is 900 net square feet per is a minimum, up to 1,000 net square feet for maximum on general classrooms, and then 1,100 minimum and 1,300 max for kindergarten rooms, and so on. And so those notes are kind of throughout the comments column. And so we will then translate these policy items into the this space summary by inputting the items that we think need to be there based on the educational program. One other sort of qualifier here is that the column that says existing conditions is us documenting where your building is currently. And so that's where that lives, and that'll stay that way throughout the entire project. And so when the first pass at this space summary is that we go down the new construction line and we just put in what our ideal targets are to meet the space required. So again, remember the MSBA's whole system is about educationally appropriate, right size, and cost effective. And so the first exercise we did was kind of nailing down the educationally appropriate part. This document is getting us closer to figuring out what the right size is. And then as we get further down the road, we'll start to get in on the cost stuff, and we can start to talk about cost appropriateness, but size is the biggest driver of cost. And so so this is one of those steps that kind of knocks on two of the hallmarks of the MSBA's process. So what have we done here? So we have translated that document that we were given from the school committee. I think actually reviewed it, if not approved it. And we have translated the kindergarten classrooms into 7 and general classrooms into 35, along with 2 science, technology, and engineering rooms. And so you can start to kind of see that there's this repetitive like multiple of 7 that you're going to find. So groupings of 7 in each grade. So 7 kindergarten, and then 7 first, and 7 second, and so on. And then if you keep going down the line, you'll see special education has another 7 rooms. And those are the dedicated pull out instruction rooms for special education. And then you keep going, and there's a 7 total resource / small group rooms at 500 square feet. And so that sort of starts to break the building down into compartments and containers that allow us to distribute the program and educational delivery in the right way. And those are kind of the biggest categories. And then the column that's between proposed program and the MSB guidelines is the variation to the guidelines. And so if you're tracking that, you'll see where we're kind of up or down in various categories. And we're trying to get that as close to 0 as we can, or under, mostly because that makes more of your building eligible for reimbursement in the MSBA's eyes. They will let you build over the guidelines, and often will allow those to be eligible more specifically within core academic and special education. That's where MSBA will participate in those, but sometimes they'll say, go ahead and build that, but we're not going to participate. It's ineligible for reimbursement. And so that takes the effective reimbursement rate you have and starts to lower it a little bit. And so our goal is to try to get you a building that's right sized within the guidelines, and so that it gets more into the eligible reimbursement, which makes the effective reimbursement rate stay at or near what the stated rate actually is. And so if you go down a little bit more, there's a section for art and music. We are essentially not building the 3 rooms because the educational program document sort of decidedly said that we only need 2 for each of those, art and music. And so that's really the savings there. And then as we go down even more through these columns, you'll see that most of the categories are pretty well balanced to the MSBA's guidelines. And then the one kind of big next big overage is in the administration and guidance, and that's largely due to like workrooms, mother's rooms, family center, which is a unique Framingham / Hemingway program, and then the coaches, which are there to coach teachers and staff. And so that's the bulk of that overage. And then the very last section on this is the other category, and that's where we're starting to document pre-K and the sort of administration around pre-K. And so the ideal school, again, would have 7 sections of pre-K/preschool and some administration that goes along with it. And that's how the building kind of breaks out. And then you take that all the way down to the bottom, and you can see that we're identifying total net building area around 103,000 square feet, 102,948 to be specific. And then we carry that down and do a multiplier to get the gross square footage of 155,791 square feet. The MSBA kind of applies a grossing factor across many of their projects of 1.54. There's a lot that goes into that. Some of it is just the thickness of the walls that has gotten thicker over time because of insulation requirements and various things. And then also corridors and toilet rooms and things like that that are not programmed up above in the spreadsheet, which we fill out later. Once we get into schematic design, we start to fill out a lot of these line items that talk about unoccupied mechanical spaces or closets, supply storage, toilets, stairs, ramps, all that stuff. And then the remaining line is basically where a wall is, a physical wall or something that you can't occupy the space, literally. And so that's how the spreadsheet works out. So we're looking at a building at this point in time around 155,000 square feet. And then some of these options are going to be a plus or minus to that. And the difference of the plus or minus is going to be in how much existing building are we keeping versus how much are we building new. There's some inherent inefficiencies and some efficiencies in old buildings. And then what we have to do to make those modern. And then yeah, and so most of the new options should be pretty well close to that 155,000 square feet range. But that's going to be one of the differentiators between the options as you see them progress through the end of preliminary design program and then into PSRs. Some of the sizes will be slightly different as we sort of examine some of these options and compare them one to another. Some of you are probably familiar with this with the Fuller School. Others, this is your first look at it. So we can pause and take any questions on the space summary specifically. So George, if you want to take any questions.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Anybody have any questions regarding this presentation?
Same question, Chris. This is Erin Asbury. Could you just scroll up to the top again? I just wanted to take a look at all the numbers from the top part. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Hopefully you guys got this in your meeting packet too. It's kind of a bear to print on 8.5 by 11. So usually we have to print them on 11 by 17s in the office. But, hopefully you can see it digitally and zoom in and out. And the explanation today helps people make sense of it as you kind of examine it a little bit more.
It may be me, but I didn't see it in the meeting packet. Is it in there?
If it wasn't, we'll make sure it's out there after tonight.
Yeah, so. I don't think it is. So
okay.
Yeah, we'll send it around. Sorry about that.
All right. Other questions?
I have a quick question.
Yeah, Brittany. Yeah.
Hi.
Going forward, just can we use our virtual hands just because it's easier to pick out people? Because
okay.
Not just you, anybody. I'm not making an example of you.
Yeah.
But just because there's people all over my screen that some are on the committee, some are not. So, anyways, go ahead, Brittany.
My question is the variance to the MSBA guidelines. I know some of it, I think you mentioned, is due to universal pre-K, but I mean, for example, even the core academic, I believe it's like the NFA, right? The 46,200 at the top, it has a variance of 1,200.
Right.
And that, what's the core reason there? And do you think that's okay, or is there a goal to get that to like match?
Yeah, good question. So this one will definitely be okay. And the reason is if you look at the MSBA guidelines side, The STEAM rooms, the science, technology, engineering, and art, they're the first two lines that are in the yellow section. They actually don't give us a number of those, and they ask us to define that based on the program. And so it shows up as 0 with 0 square footage associated with it. And so what we're doing is saying that we think 2 are needed in this building, which is about, say, 2,500 square feet or so. And so if you took those out or actually added them to the MSBA's column, then you would probably see that we were actually a little bit under the MSBA's guidelines. But I was trying to, they say up there in the big bold parentheses, do not modify. So we don't touch that at all. And they get kind of cranky about it when we do. So we don't do that. And so on every project, this looks like an overage, but it's actually not in their eyes. They're just saying, you tell us based on your program, how many of these do you need?
Okay.
And then SPED is the one program that's actually, they really hardly ever push back on you for, unless it's like really quite divergent from their guidelines. And that's one of the programs that actually at the end of PSR, we submit a package to DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually approved the SPED program at that point, square footage and pedagogy, basically,
Mm-hmm.
for the rollout of special education. And literally, if we change that by 1 or 2 square feet, they make us resubmit it. And so it's one of those programs that they'll approve as long as we've got the backup for it. And Anne did a great job with her team on defining that. So I think that one will also be okay.
Okay.
Could you
And
go
then
down
pre-K,
to the
to your
arts?
point.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, pre-K, to the point of pre-K, it's their enrollment letter told us we had to tell them how pre-K was going to be resolved for this project. And so they're expecting something down there in other for us to tell them what that impact is.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. So seeing none, we'll move on to the discuss and rank evaluation criteria.
Mr. Chair, I think next is the options review, and the evaluation criteria is after that one.
Okay, well, the agenda I have online has to discuss and rank evaluation criteria is number 7, and presentation of updated preliminary options is number 8. Did that somehow get changed?
Yeah, I have it backwards. Not a big deal. I can.
We can do the other one first if it makes more sense. So let's do that. We'll start with we'll take agenda item number 8, presentation of updated preliminary options first, if that works. Better?
Chris, does that go with you? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. So a lot of this is evolution of what you've seen, what we presented before, and we got a few good comments in from some folks, but we're sort of still developing the big package of things that's like the overall options or available reactions to the site and the program. Not going to spend a whole ton of time on this, just talk about some of the things that have changed, but this slide is just a reminder of the site constraints. You can go to the next slide. And then we're continuing to layer in information. This is I don't know if we actually talked about this last time, but the R1 is a renovation only option to the building. So does not increase enrollment, does not change anything major about the building other than systems and code issues. So it doesn't change program at all. And you can go to the next slide. And then the next few options labeled AR1 through the last one of the ARs, they are actually changing program. And so these ones are, we're starting to get some of the diagrammatic things in, site work is in there, parking play, all those kinds of components. I think pros and cons, we're listing those, and phasing. The district zoning here is the thing that I don't know if we talked about before, but this kind of is starting to correlate with the work that Sean and Matt, the Cropper team, Cropper GIS, were talking about before. And so where we say things like adds approximately 200 pre-K seats to the capacity in the district or things like that, those are us sort of identifying if you were to build a big school at Hemingway, you inevitably through the zoning process would identify students that come from other schools in the district and about how many seats open up in other non-project schools that allow for pre-K to take place there. And so this is where we're at in that process, that I expect those numbers to continue to sort of ebb and flow as we get more into the process. But that's sort of what you'll see in most of these plans here. You can go to the next slide. And I think the next ones are blow up diagrams here. The big move here was that the site is tight, and so we didn't want to expand to the south of the site where the main road is on and take up land that can be used for circulation or parking or anything like that. And so we built the second floor up, and you can navigate underneath, and it creates sort of as we develop this option further down the road, if it keeps going, you would probably see us start to identify ways that this can help create covered entry and different aspects of the actual entry and arrival sequence to the building. But interestingly, what we're trying to also do is kind of pitch it a little, rotate it a little so that we get a better solar orientation on this part of the building. And if you interestingly look across the road at the McAuliffe Library, they've got this piece that also is an angled piece coming out, and this geometry kind of starts to resolve across the road in site plan. It's actually kind of a cool gesture there. And so there's a lot of design work that needs to happen to make this actually pull together tightly on the site. But the initial gesture of getting program blocks where they are and then kind of giving it a rotation a little bit in site and plan to better solar orient and then kind of draw the site to where it is in place in the city. Those are some of the big moves there. You can go to the next slide. And then this one, I don't think a lot has changed about this one in particular, just the fact that it's a 2-story rather than a 3-story building. This is one of the only AR options that has 2 stories instead of 3. Pros and cons around that for an elementary school. We'll go to the next slide. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. And then the 3-story addition for replacing the whole front of the school. So we have an opportunity to sort of rebuild how the entire school looks from the front and kind of reshape some of the parking drop-off play areas, but still stay inside of this sort of demarcation line of landscaped area that's already on site today. You can go to the next slide. Yep, you can keep going. And then rebuilding the backside or north side of the building closest to the parking area and the fields. You'll start to note that a lot of these AR options have a similar response in terms of pre-K seats opened up in the district, and that goes along with that idea that the Cropper team had studied 3 fundamental models of zoning, and this would all be related to that option 1 of a 985 student building on the Hemingway site. So you can go to the next slide. You can keep going. Yep. And so then we start with the new options, new construction, that's in C, and then 3A here is the sort of elongated version. The classroom wings you'll see have the good solar access. You want the long face facing south, and then building elements that are less occupied during the day or not as occupied in the morning time or evening as the sun's sort of navigating from east to west. You can kind of calibrate how your building is used so that it's less impact and less heavy burden on the building itself just from a good solar access point. And so that's what these classroom wings are doing, angled on the front of the building. Again, just sort of long access towards the south, and then has like a big spine in the middle that draws people through the building and towards the more public spaces down into the rear of the building, which is like where dining and gym are clustered. That's usually a good adjacent programmatic layout for schools, as one is overflow and the other's kind of an event space. You can go to the next slide. And this, just kind of talks more about how that lays out in plan. You can go to the next slide. And then this was taking that as a 2-story option and then making it 3, which is just essentially shortening it and going more vertical, which is going to give us a lot more area on site to deal with 985 students, which is going to be a plus for building anything on this site. You can go to the next slide. And then the last new construction option as a refresher was to try to see what happens if we built a more like urban type of school that you might see more of in Boston or other places that are like a big stacked 3-story or 4-story block building. And so that's what we were doing here with some of the larger components in the middle as the sort of core of the building, and then the classrooms wrap around 2 sides. You can go to the next slide. Yep. And then the Bethany Road site. So you can, again, just keeping the site constraints in view as we look at this, just a reminder about what we're dealing with and the buildable area that we've sort of determined is the easier area to build in on the site without more expense and cost. You can go to the next slide. And so we're starting to look at ways that we can roll out the building on the site and deal with the sort of large topography on the gradient on the side, on both sides really, because you're in the valley, but and then get good solar orientation and distribution of classes and classrooms in all window facing, and and dealing with how we get students in and out of the building, main entries and stuff like that. You can go to the next slide. Yep. And then, and I'll just comment here on the new options at Bethany. You can start to see that we're picking up a lot of seats in the district for pre-K and preschool. And that if you were to do, say, a brand new building at Bethany, you can see the first point there under zoning is that it could add potentially up to 400 to 500 seats at Hemingway for just like an early learning center, pre-K, preschool building. And that's pretty significant because it gets the district at or nearly at their stated goal for the complete universal pre-K model that they were studying. You can keep going. Yep, and then we started looking at some courtyard schemes on the Bethany Road site. This one probably has some continued work to do to sort of make it a little bit more viable on site. But at any rate, looking at this idea of courtyard in the building, similar to what's on Hemingway right now and some other schools you've seen around Massachusetts. You can keep going. And then the third sort of idea was this dual school option that we want to keep on the table should it become of value for the district and the city to look at. But that just basically keeps Hemingway online as a smaller school, and then you build another school on the Bethany Road site that is also smaller, but that it kind of, what it ends up being is that all of the elementary schools in the city are around the same size, which is, maybe seen as a positive, and utilizes more of the existing building, physical building that's already there as an asset that you're going to just renovate. And again, the reason we couldn't keep that with just a 985 student building is just it's not big enough, right? For 985, it is big enough. For 490 or so, 480. And so it would work for a smaller size school. It doesn't work for a 985 student school. We have to do something if that bigger one happens. So this dual school option is keeping on the table the idea that we could divide and conquer and maybe make a lot of things work. It has some drawbacks on the zoning side that we need to be mindful of, but it would it would sort of exceed our 2030 goals for the project in terms of pre-K and preschool. So, and then I think do we have another slide here? Okay,
No,
so that's the criteria.
fine.
So that was the options update. And again, we did receive some good comments and some good feedback that we will continue to fold into these as we get. They're right now being evaluated by cost estimators so that we can get some order of magnitude cost representations for these ideas around school. And then we'll be able to talk to you more about that in one of the next meetings as we get closer to the submission of the PDP. So that's what I have for options.
Okay, so do you want to go into the next segment about evaluating? Is that what we're trying to do? And then maybe we can talk about them together? Or would you rather take?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. We can talk through the evaluation criteria and then because it's all relates together. So I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I think that makes sense too. So why don't we do that?
Okay, thank you. So last time that we met earlier in June, we did a poll of to kind of rank the criteria that we wanted to use to evaluate the different sites, the different options that we have. So this is just a quick recap of what that looked like last time. So what we did between when we last met, we met with the working group, and what we did was put definitions to all of those criteria. So that's what this is here, and we can run through each one and kind of talk through all of them, make sure everyone kind of understands what each criteria means. We can adjust them as needed. So the first one would be the adaptability of neighborhood schools. And the definition of that is it supports the school zoning flexibility. Impact to neighbors and neighborhoods, the traffic impacts, the scale of the building, the density of the building, and how that relates to the neighborhood that it's being placed in. City planning, does it support educational reuse, district offices and pre-K? Total project cost, this is the estimated total project cost, the building cost, the soft cost, any swing space, field replacement costs, and also encompasses the effective reimbursement rate and what that looks like for each of the different options, because it could be different. We took the potential ineligible cost, we kind of merged that with total project cost because it seemed pretty similar. Parking and circulation, we said was proper and safe parking and circulation on site, and if the site is large enough to allow for that. Appropriateness of playing fields and site features. Is the site large enough to provide proper and safe playing fields, access to those fields? And then impact on universal pre-K, supports expansion of district pre-K. Next, kind of the next column, we have construction impact to existing school, which would encompass phasing, logistics, and if temporary facilities are required. Access to community features, again, proper and safe access to the community spaces after hours, the ability to kind of separate those so that when people have access to those areas, they don't have access to the entire school. Accommodates educational program is the ability to meet the MSBA guidelines, maximize the space planning, best practices, cohort adjacencies, site evaluations, any challenges related to permitting and site development. Grade level organization, I believe this is one from the previous slide, and we merged that with accommodates education program. Sustainability is the ability to meet the current guidelines, incentive requirements, best practices for cost-effective sustainable building operation. Expansion potential is there space for future additions as well as required parking and site amenities that would go along with that. And then construction duration for the total project is overall project duration. Chair can turn it over, see if there's any questions on that or discussion points on any of those.
Yes, sorry. It's hard to unmute for some reason. Yes, any questions, discussions, anything like that? Rachel.
Thank you, Chair.
That's-
For the traffic, I recall that you said there's going to be a traffic study done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there
And
has been one, and I think so. As a side note, for some of these criteria points, you'll want to be looking at, especially with the traffic issues. There's a report that's been done, and it'll get available to you all in a drive. Like there's a Google Drive or some database drive that we're going to make for you all to be looking at all of the different parts of the PDP submission and all the reports, everything that we've done so far. We will roll those up into executive summaries, and you will be seeing that in short order, but that's going to help inform how you would sort of evaluate or rate some of these options in that regard. But if you're interested in the full reports, those are going to be available to you before you have to start making choices around these things. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Mr. Alexander's joined us. Do you have a question, Noel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I see in the site evaluation criteria, did we add anything, or could we add anything about environmental, like so for instance, like solar panels, climate change mitigation, that type of thing?
Yeah, I think some of that, I think we have one here, I believe, somewhere for sustainability. It might fall into that category. Planning for future solar panels or that type of thing. I think that would fall in the sustainability category.
Yes. Okay.
We can add that in there
I didn't know
too.
that. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Questions? Okay. So what are our next steps and what are we looking at?
Yeah, so next steps, I can get to the next slide. So we created a matrix, and right now it's blank, but it will get filled out, and we can share this with everyone. You can kind of take a look at it. I can share the Excel file, and you can, start to fill it out yourselves. But basically, it's all the different options. We have them across the top, all of the different criteria along the side, and then we'll generally go through and rank it. So green means it's the best, it works the best. Red means it's poor, and that criteria doesn't really work well for that particular site or location. And as it gets filled out, it'll kind of paint a clearer picture. You'll see, which ones have more green, which ones have more red, which ones have some yellow. It's kind of neutral. And I think we'll do this more as part of the PSR in the future. Like this does not need to be filled out for the PDP. We can bring all these options forward as part of the PDP and start narrowing it down as part of PSR in the fall. But we did want to share this with you. And then also in looking at these, we've kind of gone through all of the different sites, all of the different options. At this point, we would just be looking to say, eliminate anything that we just think right off the bat is just not feasible for whatever reason or for any of these criteria. And again, we don't have to do that at this time, but if you look at one and we just think it's just not going to work for whatever reason, we could eliminate it at this point. So that's kind of next steps with this.
Okay, does anybody want to propose anything that should be eliminated at this time? Do any of the Vertex or Tape feel anything should be at this time? Brian?
I think too, for the MSBA process, sorry, we do have to bring one ad reno, one full reno, and at least one new construction at each site as a minimum. That's what will be required. So
Right.
if we bring all of them, we meet that. If we bring one of each, we'll meet that as well. So
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
I think just to add some clarity, so the full reno or base repair, if you will, to bring the current facility up to code, as Chris mentioned, it doesn't add square footage. It doesn't really address educational program. It just basically makes the building like new, if you will. Typically, in a large majority of cases, if not 90-something%, these are ineligible from the MSBA's perspective because you're not meeting their enrollment criteria, obviously, with what they've given you for an enrollment. and you're not meeting their educational requirements because you're not enhancing the sizes of spaces. In some instances, sometimes there's an existing school that you can get a lot of spaces that perhaps are big enough, like if you're converting a high school or something into a lower grade school, but usually that's not the case. So they want that from a cost comparison perspective. That's something to keep in mind. A lot of the criteria when you look at it, obviously the existing facilities in the program for a reason, and it's not going to be the most advantageous. And then you have two main concepts. One is, do you want to do an addition to the existing facility? Two, do you want to tear the existing facility down and build new on its footprint, or do you want to build a newer facility at a different site, or a combination thereof? And it really comes to the question of the impact of that project with obviously an ad reno on an existing site. Does the district or city have swing space available if we can't keep portions of the existing school intact or operational? Obviously, new buildings on the existing Hemingway site, where are those kids going to go? So we can move all of these projects forward. As Anissa mentioned, as Chris mentioned, the MSBA has not rendered a decision on option 3 yet. They really want us to prove out, is that something that makes sense and it's viable, and they're willing to consider it. But unless the district and city says, just again, hypothetical, tearing the building down, we don't have any place to put the kids for a 2-year project. A new building on Hemingway is just not a viable, feasible option. That would be a way that you would eliminate it. But we might not be at that point yet. Some districts might just say, we just don't have anywhere to put 400 kids while we do a building project. So that being said, they all can move forward. In the next phase of PSR, we'll start to evaluate these and have multiple meetings as we get more data and start to better fit some of these options, and start to narrow it down. But those will be kind of the questions that you'll have to ask yourself. And then once you start to eliminate either a scheme or potentially even a site, you'll be left with a handful of options, and those will get narrowed to one. So that's the way the process will go over the next several months in the fall.
Raya?
Hi, thank you. I just want to say thank you for the updates to the different options. It's a ton of work, so really appreciate you looking into all the comments. I just had a few thoughts for consideration. One was I like the notion for the first option, AR1, to connect to the library. I think conceptually there's something interesting there. I'm just not sure that it's really working from a planning standpoint as drawn. And I'm wondering if you can think about it a little bit more to maybe create that, gesture as more of an entry feature rather than a piece of the cantilever of the classrooms, making that expressive move. I think it would be stronger if it had something to do with really celebrating the entrance. One other thought was that AR4 to me seemed a little bit stronger than AR3, only in that if we're really trying to take advantage of kind of this idea of solar access and daylight into the classrooms, it may be better to step the building back towards the north so you have the most opportunity to get some of the daylight into those classrooms. And then lastly, NC3B, I was just wondering, as you were talking about it, the main feature to me, as it seems, is that there's this courtyard, and there's a courtyard today, and I wonder if you just rotated that courtyard so it served as the actual entrance into the building, it may feel more welcoming as this community space that you're entering into, as opposed to today where that courtyard is really within the building, and you really need to get into the building in order to experience it. So just some ideas just to think about as you move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mateo?
Thank you. So my question is just in regards to the overall number of options. Is this reflective of kind of what you would expect to go into a PDP? And then are there advantages to going in with less in that it then allows you greater bandwidth to be able to dive into the options that maybe we feel a little bit stronger of. And I guess this is a question probably for Chris, right? Is
Yep.
there advantage to going in with something less?
Chris.
Sure. And yes, that like we have sooner or later we have to eliminate
Mhm.
all but one, right? And so the more work we can get done by taking off just high level I don't know, ones that just seem more infeasible than others, then that's a good thing, right? And so then you kind of really start getting the lot to a smaller and smaller number that you're really wrestling with meaningful things rather than just something that kind of isn't working from the get-go. We had a long discussion around this with Vertex and whether we would try to urge the committee to reduce options now or say it's okay to go to PSR with all the options in place and then kind of catch your breath over the summer. And then first thing when we come like kind of hit the ground running in late August or so with the intent of sort of rapidly starting to mark some of these off. And that's okay too, but we will need this to get whittled down fairly quickly in the fall in order to make meaningful headway on arriving at a preferred schematic option by the end of the calendar year. And the context here is that every project is different. I think Brian and Vertex would probably tell you they've had projects with, a lot more options than this go to PSR. And we would tell you we've had projects with fewer options than this go to PSR. And I think this is kind of an average number ish to go from PDP to PSR. And so I feel for those reasons, I feel like it's okay, but there is always a benefit in staying linear and staying sort of minded on the work of reducing options as much as you can. And I think, we want to be cautious of eliminating something too early, but there's also a reality to, especially on this project, the limitation of the site at Hemingway being what it is, and trying to put through 985 students on that site is a real thing to consider. And I think
and I think that's where my eye was kind of drawn is we have a lot of ad reno and even maybe new options for Hemingway, but given the difficulties there, I don't know. When did you say the pricing, the initial estimate numbers will be available to kind of aid in this?
Yep. So we're getting those back early next week, or mid next week, and then Vertex and TAPE will do a sort of culling of that, and we also do reconciliation between the two separate third-party estimators, and then we'll start to put that together in likely the way you'll see it is some kind of high-low range attached to the various options. That this one could be as low as this or as high as this. I always call it like the sort of, if you look at when they forecast hurricanes, and the closer the hurricane is to wherever you're at, the
Cone
more
of uncertainty.
tight the cone of uncertainty. So like the tighter it is and the further we're out, the bigger the cone. So that's kind of what we may start with a strategy like that. So you can kind of see where the overlaps are and where certain projects are in certain ball range, certain sort of order of magnitude ranges. And then as we get further down, it'll get more refined. But I think at the next building committee meeting, we want to start talking about numbers and order of magnitudes. So,
got it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. So when are we meeting next? And what about?
Yeah, so I put together a little slide. So we're right here, our building committee today. We have a community forum coming up next week. I believe that's next week. And then we are meeting again on July 13th. And that will be to review the costs that we've discussed, review the PDP binder. We can go through the table of contents, and we'll share the link with you so you can go through everything, take a look at it. And then we have if we need the following Monday on 7/20, we could meet again if we have enough, if we're not able to get through everything that we need to get through on the 13th. But our next meeting's on the 13th, which I think is 2 weeks from tonight. Maybe
It
3
is 2 weeks from tonight, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the PDP report is scheduled to be submitted on the 24th, which is a Friday. So
Okay. So when would we be voting on that? The 13th or the 20th?
the 13th, we don't have a meeting scheduled for the 20th. That's kind of just a placeholder in case we need it. If there's a lot of questions on the 13th or we feel like there's more information that we need, we can potentially meet again on the 20th and vote on the 20th to submit it. But ideally, we would do that on the 13th.
Okay. All right. Unless there's anything else, I will take a motion to adjourn. Alan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have one question and one comment before you wrap up. Could you let us know, like, from what we saw tonight, what should we be expecting to vote on in 2 weeks? You know, is it an updated PowerPoint? Is it a Word document? You know, what's going to be new versus tonight? And finally, I just wanted to flag that I have not seen any community forum advertisements yet, and we want to reiterate the same thing we did last time. Was I thought we created a subcommittee to help shape that, work with the public information officer, website teams, school district, and get that one moving. I'm worried about if it hasn't been publicly blasted out there through all the different sources, you know, launching the week of July 4th and having it the week after. So I just flagged that for consideration so enough planning time can be done. I thought we talked about having like 3 to 4 weeks of planning time would be ideal. Thank you.
Brian?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I guess regarding the schedule, how does the committee feel as if they would want to potentially vote on narrowing the options, or do they feel that they all should move forward? Because the vote for the PDP is really TAPE will be uploading all of the pieces in addition to what Vertex will help provide from the district into that binder, and then that binder is what gets voted on, saying, okay, we feel like the PDP is complete. We're going to submit that to the MSBA for review and move forward. So there's a vote to submit the PDP itself to the MSBA. If we feel like there's an intermediate step of either voting to not reduce or voting to reduce, I think we'd want to clarify that, kind of based on the conversation you had tonight. So that's, if you want to discuss that a little bit further, or if you want to wait till the 13th, once you have the costs.
Right. I mean, I think it's a hard discussion to have since we haven't really seen
That's right.
specifically what it is. I mean, we've seen some of the parts, but I think the best idea is to have the most concise, informative presentation we can on the 13th. And if need be, we'll have to schedule a second. And if people aren't comfortable voting that night, we'll have to schedule a second meeting, be it the 20th or some other time it's convenient for the majority of the group between that date and the 25th, or whatever it is that is due.
Yeah, I agree. And to add a little context to what Chris explained just a few minutes ago, and to some of the comments that came up about the options, in narrowing the options in the PSR phase, there's going to be tweaks to those. So these are basically schematic concepts or solution concepts, if you will, like rotating the courtyard to face south or something like that. There's going to be iterations of those individual options, because at some point you have to get to, we like this scheme that has these elements that we're going to refine as we move into schematic design. And you can start talking about rotating buildings and where the entry goes and things like that. But in general, that's the scheme. It's a 3-story addition renovation, or it's a tear down and build new. Like that's what you'll be voting on in PSR. I don't know, Chris, if you want to add more detail to that, but as far as the narrowing process in the fall, understanding what site it's going to be on is going to be the major decision. You don't have an enrollment decision here. You're gonna have to choose the site. So then those options can be further refined that pertain to that site, because then that's going to be where the last couple options are. And you're really going to get into the details of each one and start splitting hairs on cost or other features that are better than others.
Okay, Chris, then Bob, then Lisa.
Sure. Yeah. The one thing I was going to suggest is that we will definitely produce a very, concise presentation for the 13th, but just want to make sure people understand that all of the documents that are going to be assembled in the PDP binder for review and available on the website, the committee will need to do some pre-work in that before that meeting to review, because there's thousands of pages of stuff to just look through and make sure you're comfortable with us submitting. So the rolled up presentation on the 13th will not be near as comprehensive as the actual binder is that's available. And so just want to make sure people have that time carved out to make sure they can look at it.
I think that makes
13th.
sense. I think that makes sense. But when will you make it available to the committee? I mean, it can't be Friday afternoon before the Monday night.
No. It's all of it. Like most of it is already available, and so we just have to make sure you have the link. I'm just trying to make sure people know.
All right, so if we can work on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris, in the way we've done this before, even and in working with TAP A, is that drive will be table of contents, and there'll be files according to the table of contents. Some folks might be more interested in other reports than others. We will have reviewed everything to make sure it's complete.
So when's the goal, Brian, to have that on?
So Chris, I think you have most of it available now. We'll get the estimate back next week, which will be the last piece, and that will be put in. So at some point, I would think next week you're going to be ready to have it, and the goal that would be available mid next week, Chris?
That's right.
Is that enough time, or do we just want to schedule the 20th now?
No, we have time. I think we'll get it in there before the mid next week, and then committee just needs to spend some time looking at it. So,
all right, I would say no later than Wednesday next week, just to be fair. I mean, if there's 1,000+ pages, in total, we're having a meeting the following Monday, and people have different schedules. We need to.
That sounds good.
Yep,
do that.
All right, Bob.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks everyone for the presentation tonight. Good evening, everyone. I just want to confirm we'll push out obviously information. We had school just wrap up last week, so we'll certainly give a push on the community forum. I just want to confirm that it's going to be exclusively virtual this time, based on I don't know, George, if you're the one to confirm that, or I believe that's how we left it based on the feedback, but I want to make sure I'm not wrong there.
No, I don't know that that's been discussed or decided by this committee, but I assume the working group or whatever has discussed it, and I think that was the lean.
Okay, I mean, I would advocate for that. We've tried it both ways. I think in terms of accessibility for interpretation and not having to provide childcare and custodial overtime and so forth, I think this makes sense. But before we promote and push this, I want to make sure that this is going to be if it's agreeable to this board. I think it's easier to share presentations this way as well. But again, I'll leave that to the school building committee to determine.
Okay. Well, I mean, at this point, I would suspect we're pretty much locked into the virtual meeting anyways.
Okay.
Unless anybody strongly feels differently. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily ideal, but given the time of year, everything else, I think it's where we're at right now.
I completely agree, and given the attendance at the last meeting,
right. I get it.
And then secondarily, just a comment, as we consider, and probably when the grid that was shared is color coded, it'll be more obvious. I just want to point out, swing space is not an option. I know it was pointed out earlier as well. We don't have a viable, and we may think immediately to go to Farley. That is not a viable swing space because it's not a sprinklered building. It wouldn't meet the requirements of fire code. So that's the only available space that we have to work with right now, and we're able to accommodate our 18 to 22 program there because of the age of our adult students in that program. But we would not be able to accommodate an elementary school at Farley in case that was a thought. So I don't know whether or not you want to just wait until I don't know if it's extra work for the team to color code those cells, or if it will just reveal itself by the color scheme. I don't know how you want to go there. Just wanted to put that out there, that I can tell you that there's not swing space that I'm aware of, at least not without a cost.
Okay.
So
Anissa?
Thank you.
Anissa?
Yeah, just to Bob's point, I think that will show up in the costs because they'll account for modulars or something for swing space in those options. I just wanted to address Adam. I know you'd asked about the communications subcommittee. We had a little trouble coordinating everyone's schedules, but we do have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday of this week. So it is going. It's just this time of year is a little tricky and there are a few people on vacation. So I just want to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, seeing nothing, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it, George.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded, so all those in favor, Adam,
Yes.
self, yes. Brent,
Yes.
Brittany,
Yes.
Erin,
Yes.
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes. Sorry.
sorry, and Noble,
Yes.
and Mateo.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
I know.